Emma, if you can see okay, I don't know if we need some house lights to be able to see, but if you have a question for any one of the veterans, okay, let's, Emma, we're going to start right there with Bill in the blue shirt right there. I'll let you take that over. Go ahead, Bill.
I was wondering why Charles didn't liberate the whole hope chest, not just the stationary.
Is this on? Oh,
yep.
Okay. So the question is to Charles. Why didn't you liberate the entire hope chest? Why just the stationary?
So the chest, where Hitler's stationary was, they want to know why you didn't take the whole chest and send it home and liberate the whole thing.
Take the whole...
Yeah, they want to know why you didn't take the whole chest and liberate the whole thing.
Well, I
didn't feel like it.
I slept across the hall that night from Hitler's office, in the office of his right-hand man, which had Dr. Hans Lammers, and he reviewed all the documents that Hitler saw before he looked at them. And he was long gone, and he locked up his desk. I picked the lock on it at night, and the only thing he had left in it was a seating arrangement for a 1938 banquet, and it was the head of that table for us, and they had honoring the people from Austria, and I found out why we occupied Austria after the war. They weren't in the war, and I used to kind of wonder why that was that we occupied them all summer. And it was because they all spoke German. Hitler was an Austrian, so they were pretty well allied. But anyway, I still didn't hear it. My hearing is deteriorated so much that the government gives me $100 a day because of my hearing loss from the gunfire. So I have to compensate for it with hearing aids, and that's not very good.
And another part of Charles' story, he was briefly in the Graves Registration Service, which was in charge of collecting the dead, and there's some significant stories there. Emma, do we have other questions?
Yes, we have a couple more.
Yeah, I want to know from any one of you, from your perspective, when you were fighting the war, when was it in your mind that you felt like we're going to win this? Was there a particular moment that you felt like we had the advantage and we were going to win this war from your own perspective?
Anybody like to field that one? When was it that you knew we were going to win the war?
At the end of the Battle of the Bulge, when we finally pushed them back, we knew we were going to win. There's going to be a lot of fighting left to do, but we were going to win.
Anybody else? Sally, Ray, was there a time when you knew that this is it, we're going to win this war?
When we went over to Europe in June the 6th, 1944.
And another story in Sally's documentary, she was on her honeymoon, and they heard a horrible noise overhead. You walked outside, and you're...
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of planes going over. And my husband said to me, he said, well, the war has started.
The invasion of Europe, D-Day. Emma.
Yes, a couple more.
All of you were so young when you enlisted, and you gave so much during the war. Did any of you think about or serve when Korea came online?
Did you hear, Bob? So she was asking, you had done so much during the war. When the Korean War started, did any of you think about serving in that war?
I thought about it for about 10 seconds.
Bob, what about you?
Yeah, actually, after the war, I stayed in the Navy, and I was in the reserve, and I was in for 20 years. But anytime they wanted me during that war, they could have called me in, and they didn't. So I was back in college. Now I didn't have a chance to go to college. Now I'm in college, and so as far as volunteering to go back to Korea, I stayed in college, but I was available at all times. And I guess they just didn't call me back in. So they did send me a letter, and they said, if you want to come in just for fun, I don't know. They said, enjoy you coming over to Germany and flying the Berlin airlift. Once again, to this day, I kind of wish I'd taken that dare, but I didn't, because I figured if I got out of college, I'd never go back. So I stayed in college, and if things got to where you wanted me, you were going to call me in anyhow. So I stayed in college.
Thank you, Bob. I think let's take at least a couple more questions. So Emma, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was wondering, for like especially those of you that were in combat, you know, for however many couple of years, was it hard to readjust to civilian life after being in a world war? What was it like to come back home?
So let me start down here. Charles and Ray. Ray, what was it like to adjust to civilian life when you came back home from the war? How hard was that?
It's kind of difficult for me to remember anything that before back, 99 years. But since the government provided under the GI Bill secondary education, I just went right to MU in Columbia, since I was living in Missouri, and graduated in 3 years. So I don't really remember much of the adjustment that I had to make.
Okay. Ray, what about you? Was it difficult to get back to civilian life?
All of it was difficult. You come back, you don't have nothing. You don't have any job. Some of the plants didn't have any parts or nothing to run, but it would take applications. You're standing in line around a block, try to get an application. I didn't ever get one. I had a friend that knew somebody that got me well, I wouldn't say a job. It was to get an interview with a official body on the official lake side. And you got to go to the official body, and I got to work about 2 or 3 days a week. And didn't get any parts, so that made it rough. You couldn't pay your bills or have anything on that. But the only thing that helped when I first got out was you got unemployment thing. You got $20 a week for a year, so you try to get a job and live on that $20 a week, pay room and board. I lived in a one-room sleeping room and then ate out.
Yeah.
It was tough.
It was tough. One of the things I've heard is one of the reasons we call you the greatest generation is that when you came back from this war, you didn't talk about it, You just got busy building a country. Same thing in Britain, with respect. And so, perhaps one more question tonight as we wrap up.
We have two more. You want to do the
Yeah,
last?
that's perfect. Yeah, let's do it.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. I'm wondering, what do you wish the young people of America would know?
About World War II or just from their experiences?
I don't care.
If, again, the question was, what would you like the young people today, from your experiences, to know?
I think it's on the back of my car. They already That's got to know it.
What's on the back of your car, Bob?
On the back of my car, that's the desk out there, is just that I'd like for the young people today to realize what sacrifices went in for these people here to keep us still speaking English. We don't speak Japanese, we don't speak German, we won a war, and I think the young people of today it's kind of drifted from a little bit, but I think they ought to think back and thank this generation, really.
Ray, you were saying something just a moment ago. Did you say something a moment ago? No? Okay, my mistake. And final question.
All right, last question. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the invasion of Normandy, D-Day. The last big hoo-ha for veterans going over there this June. I just want to ask each and all of you guys what you guys remember of June 6, 1944.
Sally, you shared a moment ago that you remember June 6th very well. You walked out and saw the planes. Yeah. And Bill, I'm interested about what you knew about June 6th, because am I remembering correctly, you were not there at the time. But what news was coming home?
The news was that we had landed in France, and it was going well. And it just built from there. We didn't get much officially for 2 or 3 weeks, and that was the Army's version of what was going on, so you don't know how much was to keep the morale up, that sort of thing. It wasn't, for me at least, it was, thank God I wasn't there on June 6th, the slaughter on the beach. And thank God I'm still not there, because they're doing pretty bad in the bocage country, the hedgerow countries. You see, even though the French and the British are only a few feet apart with a channel between them about 20 miles wide, somehow the High Command forgot that on the French side of the channel is the bocage, and that's the hedgerow country, and it is absolutely designed for defense. It's the perfect defense. The Germans were doing the defending, we were doing the attacking, and we wound up finally taking Normandy. But what people don't remember or don't know is we were 6 weeks behind our schedule. It was a terrible blunder that was made and rarely talked about, rarely mentioned. But that's the situation we had. So I was thanking God all the time that I wasn't involved in any of that. However, I got my time in due time. unit shares a rather minor distinction, although my son practically has high blood pressure whenever I say that. The distinction is that we served 171 consecutive days of full engagement with the enemy. That means we were never relieved in, well, just 6-7 months of combat. So when I got out of the Army, I was the happiest guy in the world. I was so damn glad to be alive, you wouldn't believe it. So I didn't have any problems anymore. The problems were back in the war. Not being home again with mom and dad and the others, and some of my friends came back, and all that beer and girls that I haven't used today. So I was just happy as a clam.
Sally, you were saying something just a second ago about June 6th.
About what?
June 6th, 1944.
Yes. Well, I said it all then.
Just wanted to recap. Well, it's my privilege right now to introduce to you Kelly Campbell Goodnow, the Executive Director of the Heart of America Patriot Foundation, driving force behind this event tonight. And so would you please welcome Kelly Campbell Goodnow.
Bill, Bob, Sally, Ray, and Charles, thank you. Thank you. It is an honor and a privilege to meet each of you and to hear your stories. Thank you, Dr. Cassidy and Dr. Gartland, and all of the faculty and staff and students here at Rockhurst for your contributions to this wonderful program have been just phenomenal. And also I want to thank our friends at GEHA Health, Bank of Labor, CBIZ, EFL Associates, and J.E. Dunn. Those sponsorships have allowed us to make service stories accessible to our whole community, and this is something we want to keep doing and making accessible to our community, because as you can see, these stories are priceless stories that we need to pass on to younger generations. And Sean, we are beyond grateful to partner with you and Patriot Features. The clips you all saw tonight on the screen were just a taste of the full documentaries that Sean has, that he has produced as a gift for these veterans, for their families, for us, for our community, and our nation. I think, is it 107, Sean? Is that the number there? Or 107 full documentaries, full stories that he has produced on his website. So please check that out at patriotfeatures.org. They're there as an archive, a priceless archive, to educate our community and our future generations that we may never forget these sacrifices that have been made for our freedom.